Ms. Howard stepped out for a second, so we'll continue with reports with Ms. Krummeler. Do you have reports? Mr. Lieberman? Ms. Butler, any reports?
I don't have a full report, but I did, we were sent the report by Michael Van Clough that did the work on the invasive species, and I happen to have been involved with it a little bit because Ben was sort of overseeing it, and I thought it was an excellent report. I think for the money we spent, we got a pretty great product, and I think if we have time and if we could put him on the agenda, it'd be worth having him in to give the full report.
Okay.
That's one thing.
I'll follow up on that. Thank you.
Mary Moss Park, we went to HPC for a meeting, and to be continued, I guess. And Deanna, are you going to talk about the construction or the issues with taking down
the demolition?
Yes.
I can do that.
I was thinking deconstruction, but I knew that wasn't quite right. The demolition. Thank you.
I'll do Mr. Simon, then come back. So, Mr. Simon, any reports?
No reports.
All right, Ms. Howard?
Thank you. Sorry to miss my opportunity. Just want to report that the Department of Health is going to be clicking submit tomorrow on all the accreditation materials. There have been over 400 documents they've been compiling to demonstrate all the processes that what they do to protect our health. It's been an 11-month process, and the next steps are once the application is deemed complete, there'll be a site visit. So at some point we'll see folks coming around, checking things out, and hopefully we'll get approved for accreditation in 2017. But a really important step in what's been a long process, and a kudos to our local Department of Health.
Yeah, Ms. Cornell?
Can I ask Heather a question? Or I have a resident who a couple times has asked me about this, and I've been meaning to ask it, and it's about why is the health department involved in marriage licensing? And is that like a throwback to the old times, and shouldn't we get rid of that?
It does go back to giving out birth certificates to all the registration issues, right? And so it does go back to sort of recording births, deaths, marriages. As long as, do they want to get rid of marriages generally, or just the piece of paper that we get?
No, just that it's the why isn't it like the clerk's office? Why is it the health department?
Well, I think because in the past it's been done for all the vital records, and at the state level it's under the Department of Health. It's all under vital statistics, and so here it's under vital statistics too. So it's been under the Department of Health. I think that's historic. But it's a good question.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what questions are on it. There aren't any health questions. Are there any?
No. No. I mean, but it also goes back to.
But there used to be the blood test.
Of course, at one point in time there were.
Yeah,
tests.
that's when it started.
Yeah.
But now it's just purely the health department administers it, but that's it.
Because they do all these other vital statistics. You're right. It really is. It is a relic in that sense. Yeah.
Okay. Were you done, Ms. Howard? Okay. I had a few reports. The first is a more thorough report from the Neighborhood Character and Zoning Initiative Group. And as part of this project, the goal is to end up with some revisions to our ordinances. And they're from discussions with the group and comments from the public in our first meeting. The task force has identified some areas where we think there is general consensus that we would like to be able to move on this year. So to put a set of ordinances up for introduction at our next meeting, November 14th. All of these ordinances are part of our land use code, so they would have to go to the planning board for review and then come back to council for a public hearing. So we want to get that process started if we're able to finish it in 2016. So I wanted to report to council what the topics were, just to make sure everybody here on council felt like there was also general consensus, so that it makes sense to start moving forward on some of these. And if there's not, we can pull it and wait till 2017. And just for everybody who might not know this, one of the things that council has to consider just in timing is we're not allowed to introduce an ordinance during one calendar year and pass it in a subsequent calendar year. So it doesn't make sense for us to start a process now if we're not going to be able to complete it by December. If something's going to take several meetings, we should just wait till 2017. But we noticed by the pace of the changes in a lot of our neighborhoods that if we can act sooner, it would make sense to. So the first set of topics have to do with driveways. So one recommended action is to revise the maximum width of driveway and apron, and this is to help make our sidewalks safer. So instead of having an extremely wide stretch where you're exposed as a pedestrian, we would narrow the width of a driveway. So for example, if somebody has a 2-car or 3-car garage, instead of having their driveway be 2 cars or 3 cars width, you'd have a 1 width size driveway, and then it would expand on the property. The second driveway-related action would be to add a minimum setback. The third would be to permit shared driveways. Right now, that would require a variance, a shared driveway, and this would help to allow people to put driveways, maybe share a driveway, put it up to the property line, and allow people some leeway on the restrictions. Second set of topics has to do with porches. So the first would be an incentive to incentivize porches by permitting them as an encroachment into the front yard setback. Do you need more? You're looking at me puzzled. Okay. The second would be to adjust the dimension minimums and maximums. So right now, our consultants felt that the dimensions of allowed porches might be smaller than they need to be, so take a look at those dimensions. And then the third topic has to do with garages, and the recommended action would be to reduce the protrusion and prominence of garages in the front of houses. The fourth has to do with front yard setbacks, and the recommended action is to recalibrate prevailing front yard setback regulations. And the last one has to do with clones and repetition, and this would prohibit clones or mirror images of houses when a lot is subdivided.
So, question, Mayor, so you're asking, I mean, that's a lot for us to digest right now, so I don't know, some of them I have questions about.
I can send them out to council, too.
You sort of want our take on whether these are things my inclination would be to say, yes, we ought to do everything we can, given our schedule this fall, but I can't say, yes, I'm going to be for all those things. I mean, but is that helpful?
Right, I guess what I'm asking is if there's anything that jumps out at you where you think, I'm not really sure about that, then I think we would pull it from the list, because the hope is that, especially if we have a package, that everybody could look at it. There are things that we agree, there are problems with our code as they are now, they're leading to problems. These are tested ordinances that have worked in other communities. We look at them, they make sense, and we're able to pass a bunch of them and have them on the books. If there are things that are going to require a lot of time, then that's fine. Let's just wait on those. Ms. Butler?
I agree with Heather. I'd like to see this in writing, and I'd like to see it, if there are examples that we could look at what you're talking about. I mean, some of them we can imagine, and others not. I guess I'm still stinging from last year when we tried to make those 4 small changes, and, all hell broke loose. It seems that nothing is easy when it comes to changing the zoning. So I agree, I'm in favor of moving forward if we can, but it would be great to have the information. It'd be great to have a little bit of a sample or picture so we can go around and actually see what's going on.
Okay, fair enough. And also these will be part of the discussion with those focus groups I mentioned too, and those focus groups will all be held before our next meeting.
And they're all going to discuss these issues as well?
Yes, that will be part of the agenda, is to get people's feedback on them. Yeah, Ms. Carmilla?
We just want, the one about the porches, I just want to make sure that it's done in other towns and it didn't result in even bigger houses, because it sounded like, oh, you're going to let it go, the porch go into the front. Just want to make sure it's not just, the whole house won't be moved up. But I'm sure there's a way that that's addressed, or I would assume that, but just making sure.
Right, so I'm also having trouble responding to all of those, in fact, most of them, but the one that I heard that I would have no problem with, unless it's really kooky, would be permitting shared driveways. All right, so just to, of all the ones you listed, that one, I mean, unless it's just spelled out poorly, that one I can't see a problem with. The other reaction I have to the list is we did have at least one of the ordinances that passed, the revision ordinances that Councilman Butler mentioned that passed last year, passed by a 3-2 vote, and with one of the affirming votes saying, but there's some things we need to do to fix it. And I didn't hear that in the list. And we made a point in our council goal-setting session to say that would be brought up this year. In fact, well before now, but here we are. So can we please go back to the records? I believe it was the redefinition of FAR.
Yeah, FAR, yeah.
But we discussed it both in the vote and the public hearing, and we discussed it again during council goal setting, and it should be in our notes. So, and there may be more than one of them, but at least FAR was there, and so could I ask that be added to the list?
Well, I don't know if that's going to be a simple one or not, because again,
there were some things that we asked for immediate follow-up even during that discussion. Like if you've got a space in an entryway, right, that it not be, that floor aeration not be allowed to blow up the volume by not counting that space as a floor if there's no floor there. And you've got an entryway with a high ceiling,
right,
with two-floor ceiling. There were just a few specific examples that came up in that debate, and there should be detailed notes on those in the minutes, or if you have to review the tapes, but whatever. So, all right.
Okay,
so
we can go back. Ms. Butler?
Could you, I don't know whether this came up or whether you could add it to the list. It sort of is a sister to the combining the driveway, and that is, can we limit the number of curb cuts any one property has? I mean, we have properties in town with 3 curb cuts. They have a circular driveway. If you're on a corner, you can have a circular drive with 2 curb cuts on one street and a curb cut on another one. So one property has 3. And I understand for safety purposes why we might want to allow 2 curb cuts so people can have a circular driveway. I'm thinking particularly along Hodge. I've seen people add them, but they're not. It prevents them from having to back out onto a relatively busy street. But I guess are 2 curb cuts preferable to a turnaround in your driveway? So, we've been, Jenny and I in particular, rather outspoken about having cars parked out in front of your house, but maybe when you think about people who have to back out onto a busy street, Mercer, Hodge, any number of places, people have added these circular driveways, but I'm thinking, would they be better with a place they could make a K-turn? So
I'll refer that back to the consultants too. I know this is just the tip of the iceberg of issues. It was ones that they thought would be in discussion with the planning group simpler.
So I'm in consensus. I'm in consensus.
Okay, thank
to
you.
To move forward. I don't think that any of those are, any of the ones that you named would be damaging to the majority of homeowners in the area.
I agree.
think
Thank
it'll
you
be fine.
for promoting it.
Yeah, Mr. Simon?
there was one more, and if we've already tackled it and I've simply forgotten about it, somewhere in our discussions we talked about harmonizing the mother-in-law suite law between the borough and the township. Has that already been done? Or if not, can we please add that to the list?
I don't think that's a simple one, but that is part of the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought we had a pretty good consensus to go with the borough's form. Is that not the
I
sense
thought
we
so
had?
too, because the borough has one way and the township has the other, and we just wanted to go with the borough way to allow them, but
Okay.
it would be great. I mean, I know that would be really helpful for a lot of people.
Okay. Okay. I will pass those comments along. All right, and I had a couple other reports. The Department of Environmental Protection issued a drought warning for Mercer County, and they're encouraging everybody to conserve water. And on a more positive note, Nassau Street has been named by the American Planning Association as among the People's Choice Awards top 5 great places. And there is voting still going on for who is the greatest of the great places. So I encourage you to vote for Nassau Street. And I believe there's a link on the princetonnj.gov website if you're interested in voting. So vote for that, and then remember to vote on November 8th as well. I'll be holding my regular Meet the Mayor office hours on October 28th. That's this Friday from 8:30 to 10 a.m. at the public library in the lobby. And I think that's it for...
Speaking of great, weren't we Princeton, wasn't Princeton named 7th best place in the country to raise a child with asthma? Remember that?
Right, yeah.
Because of our rarefied air, yes. So we did receive that honor recently as well.
Mayor,
Ms. Butler.
do you want to make note of the fact that we changed the closed session agenda?
Thank you. I do want to make note of that. During closed session, we, at the last minute, added an item to get an update on the affordable housing ongoing litigation. There was a meeting that our lawyer was at this morning that he wanted to update us on. So we added that to the closed session agenda.
And we removed?
We didn't remove anything. We didn't talk about it, but we didn't remove it. Okay. All right, and then now we'll move on.